tide won't turn around. Life feels like a lesson I should've learned by now. When I can't take much more, and the help I'm praying for ain't coming. If I just sit still and listen with my soul, I found out that I was never in control. It's all in His hands. It's hard to understand till I'm down to nothing. But heaven's up to something. Heaven's up to something. It might not be today, 'cause it's not all my time. But I know somehow, someway, the sun is gonna shine, warm upon my face, and I'll be back in the race. I'm running, 'cause heaven's up to something I can't see. Something good for me, something that I never dreamed before. I've come to believe He'll give me what I need, but usually it's even more. I don't have that much, just a mustard seed, but when it comes to faith, little's all you need. Time and time again, that's where it begins. When I'm down to nothing, heaven's up to something. Heaven's up to something. And I know it's something good. Yes, and everything's gonna work out like it should. Ooh.
Welcome to the Beau Show, your home for faith, family, and freedom. Is heaven overrated? Apparently the late singer David Crosby thought so, and right now he is finding out. My opening song is a tune by the great songwriter Rivers Rutherford, and when I heard this song recently, it made me think of how musicians and songwriters depict heaven. Crosby, the lead singer of the band Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, died last week at the age of 81. Crosby was, of course, a founding member of the Byrds, Crosby, Stills & Nash, and Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. He died with his soulmate and wife, Jan Dance, by his side, as well as his son, Django. According to the online music publication Music Times, between 1964 and 1967, the rock superstar, together with Michael Clarke, Gene Clark, and Chris Hillman, was the Byrds' vocalist and guitarist. Later, he joined forces with Stephen Stills and Graham Nash to form his second band. After a career that began in the middle of the 60s and lasted through the 70s until the 1990s, when he returned to acting, his final solo song, Cross, was released in 2014. Though the cause of his death wasn't disclosed, there's a rumor that he allegedly died from COVID-19. According to Showbiz 411, quote, he was likely vaccinated but potentially had comorbidities, unquote. However, it is unclear if it's true. Just a day before his death, Crosby was active on Twitter, sarcastically commenting on a friend's tweet that implied that people with tattoos could not go to heaven. Now, this is based on a very hackneyed meme that tries to paint Christians as delusional people with unrealistic standards to go to heaven. But this brought up a very interesting question that I want to frame in the context of Crosby's recent death. Is heaven overrated? Many a musician has written about heaven. Think about Bryan Adams' song, Heaven, Knocking on Heaven's Door by Guns N' Roses, and Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. Lots of rockers have opined, and many have done so under the influence of heavy drugs and alcohol. But artists are dreamers, so many times they dream about what happens when they die. I think of Blood, Sweat, and Tears singing, quote, "I'm not scared of dying, and I don't really care. If it's peace you find in dying, well, then let the time be near." In that sense, death would be seen as peaceful. But because only very, very few have had near-death experiences, we don't have someone telling us what heaven, or hell for that matter, are really like. Billy Joel sang, "And they say there's a heaven for those who will wait. Some say it's better, but I say it ain't. I'd rather laugh with the sinners than cry with the saints. The sinners are much more fun." Seems that David Crosby certainly lived the sinner's life. He had 3 heart attacks and a liver transplant before his eventual death. In an interview, Crosby talked about what got him kicked out of his first successful band, the Byrds.
Threw me out of the band and told me they'd do better without me.
Why'd they throw you out?
I wasn't that easy to handle. I had a big ego, and I was starting to do drugs, hard drugs. I wanted to, have more of a say in what went on, and I wanted them to play my songs. I was starting to write pretty good songs.
So you can see that in every artist there's also a sense of ego, a sense that they can do better if things were done their way. And of course, hard drugs just exacerbate that ego. Crosby eventually served 5 months in prison, quitting hard drugs cold turkey and committing to staying sober. Eventually he married his soulmate, Jan Dance, whom he describes this way.
Who'd conquered her own drug problems.
I think we saved each other's lives.
Multiple times.
The French have a phrase, raison d'être.
A reason for being.
Reason for being. And we have that.
I think it's interesting that he uses the French phrase raison d'être, which means reason for being. Because the answer to life's question of why am I here is that raison d'être. And in Crosby's mind, Jan was his reason for being here. So he thinks heaven is an overrated, cloudy place. One of Crosby's favorite songs was by Death Cab for Cutie, called "I Will Follow You Into the Dark." And the lyrics of the chorus to which say, "If heaven and hell decide that they are both satisfied, illuminate the no's on their vacancy signs. If there's no one beside you when your soul embarks, then I'll follow you into the dark." Now, to be sure, this is a well-written tune, but it speaks to the abyss that these artists, these dreamers, don't understand. So rather than using faith in God, they will follow their partner into the black night. They take comfort in that. But at death's doorstep, stepping into the unknown darkness is quite a fright. Chuck Negron, a singer from the rock group Three Dog Night, has chronicled his own battle with heroin, calling it Three Dog Nightmare. He entered rehab 37 times and even lived in a cardboard box. He recalls, quote, "It's terrible. I have to say, I love getting high. I loved it. It became my life. For a time, I didn't want to stop. When I even thought about stopping just for a while, I couldn't," unquote. Negron recalls his friend and musician Mike Finnegan helping him. He said, quote, "He came to visit and told me, 'Chuck, you have to pray and you have to ask for the acceptance of God's will in your life.' I fell asleep in the middle of a horrific withdrawal, but there's no sleep really because your body is just aching. It's electric. But when I woke up, the obsession was gone, and I knew God had helped me. I believe God came and did for me what I couldn't do for myself and relieved me from the bondage of addiction. I knew God had helped me. From that time on, my faith grew stronger and stronger. It changed my life." unquote. Negron credits his faith with turning his life around. And he continued, quote, I have a 47-year-old daughter who we're very close now, but her mother left, took her. I didn't see her for years. I have a son, Chucky, whose mother was an addict. I was an addict. And he ended up, of course, being an addict. He ended up in prison, which broke my heart. Now he's clean and doing well, unquote. So you see, Negron, like David Crosby, became a slave to drugs. At that point, when you're addicted, drugs become God. So you think there is no God or afterlife because as far as you're concerned, heaven is here.